Before we begin, thank you very much to Starscream Can Fly for joining the Patreon campaign. Yes, indeed, Starscream in just about every iteration can fly. In fact, Starscream in some doesn't even need to be a jet in order to fly, which is amusing. But thank you very much for the contribution. Thank you very much to everyone who's helping to keep the channel going and the daily content coming, which drives us to today's video. So I'm going to do something a little bit different today, a little thing that I call repaint, retool, or retire. So the idea here is that we're going to take the previous Transformer toy line, now that Legacy Evolution is completely done, and we're just going to go through all of the different toys that were released in the line and just see how much life they still have, or, you know, if I decide, do I want to see a new tooling for this one as a new character? Do I want to see a repaint? Or do I just want to see the mold go away? Now, for the sake of completion with this list, I'm going to include just about every toy in the line. And, you know, with the exception of packaging refreshes from previous series, just to make sure we are as inclusive as possible. So, like I said, we're going to start here with Leo Convoy, or Leo Prime here in the US. So this one I would typically say is a repaint because we still do not have a way of getting we don't have a good way of getting Flash Leo Convoy. I think they're doing it in Japan, but I would like a US version if possible, even if it's just a selects. But I would actually call this Retool because, good lord, that lion face still needs such a desperate resculpt. I'm still not over that. It still looks so derpy. But no, it's overall a good figure. I would not mind seeing this done with new tooling on that head. And then we move on to something that's an existing repaint that was done in Evolution, Sound Blaster. This is, again, something... this one I would go repaint, because this is actually a really good little version of Soundwave. Like, his toes sticking up out of the tape deck mode is about the only flaw this toy really has. It's a fun little desktop-sized version of Soundwave that really doesn't do anything wrong. Sound Blaster works fine. So I'd say repaint because I'm still looking for that Marvel color scheme. Someone, anyone, please, anyone, any mold. I'll take any mold at this point. See, moving on to Optimus Prime, the Armada version. Again, this was a toy of the year. This is like the best toy of last year. Hands down, I would absolutely say this is repaint category. I don't know who you'd retool it into, but there's different ways of repainting it. The Power Links version is on the table. There's the gold version that was out there. Another yellow repaint is out there. None of them look particularly great, I will admit. But then you got Shatterglass and Nemesis. There's tons of options. And basically I'm saying any way we can get this figure again is not a bad thing, especially considering like the possibility of Jetfire or others are out there. So just to keep the mold in the running, it wouldn't be a bad idea. Bomb Burst. This one... This one looks really cool until you realize how simple of a transformation it is, and then it just, like, the magic goes away. This is one I'd say is a retire. I don't really see what else you could do with the mold, and it's not a great mold to begin with. It leaves a lot to be desired, just a lot of little mistakes. Yeah, it's not the most impressive thing, and I wouldn't mind if that one just gets shelved. You know, that one's meh. That one's meh. Okay, so for this, my answer is basically the same for all of the core Dinobots. So instead of putting all 6 on this list and being super redundant, Grimlock's just here to represent every one of the 6 Dinobots. And the answer is the same. I'd love to see these retooled. We know we're going to see them. We know we're going to see them again as the Dino Force. That's pretty much a given at this point. We've got the listing. I wouldn't mind seeing them done again. I mean, there's other versions of the Dinobots you could do. I'd like a G2 version. Imagine a G2 version with those canceled color schemes for Sludge and Swoop. Throw one on, throw one on Scar as well. So I guess I know we're getting these retooled, so I guess repaint is the official answer for this one. But these are great little figures. I wouldn't mind seeing them again in something a little bit more colorful. The Nemesis Prime release for Optimus Prime, again, I guess this is again an easy repaint, though only barely so. Like, I would have to get something that I would be really interested in. Like, I'd like an Ultra Magnus. I like the white Ultra Magnus out of this. But that's a lofty goal at this point. They seem to rarely do that anymore. I wouldn't mind seeing it repainted, because it's not a bad little figure, but the figure has been around for quite a while, so that'd be about the only release I would accept before just saying, yeah, it just needs to go. It's time to retire it. I think it's got one more in it. But that's about the limit. I think the same goes for this Seeker mold. Now, you could, of course, repaint this for an Infinity, and it's a clever little unique Seeker to be at that size scale. That said, I think the only thing left I want out of it is another release of Skywarp that has his actual guns and not that stupid little slingshot he came with that literally everyone hated. So, yeah, one more use. One more just to get a proper Skywarp, and then wouldn't mind it retiring, though it's a Seeker, so I don't expect it to. Bombshell is tricky. We know we are now getting the only real retool he's got. That said, I would probably put this in the repaint category along with all of the other Insecticons. I don't think we have. Yeah, I don't have the others on the list here. Oh no. I think I've got Shrapnel. So this is going to be a little bit repetitive. The only repaint that I would want to see at this point is the only one that's still available, which would be the Warooters. As like a Selects 3-pack, I wouldn't mind because it's not a bad little color scheme, and it's always nice to have more Insecticons for the ranks. So, yeah, it's easy troop builder. Easy troop builder if they do the Diaclone colors. They've done Diaclone everybody else, so at that point, why not? Prowl is tricky. So we know we are getting him from Chromia, and it just does not look very good. That said, there are repaints and retoolings they could do out of this. I don't necessarily think I would want a Samurai Prowl, because knowing Hasbro, they would try to justify marking that as a Voyager with all the extra parts, and it really would not feel the Voyager price point if it was just Prowl with armor. There's also a G1 color scheme on this. It looks really good. You could make a nice Ransack from Cybertron out of this design. Yeah, there's options. I would say retool. I think ultimately retool. I know the direction Hasbro would likely go in, as stated, but I think there's better options out there. I think you could do some more clever stuff with it if you retooled it. So I'm going retool on him. Breakdown, we know we are getting a repaint of that into G2 colors, so I guess repaint is already covered. Would I want to see it again? Honestly, the answer for this one's going to be no. I have the same issue with him and Wild Rider, which is like they didn't really seem to know how to handle half of his vehicle mode bulk. The backpack on this toy is one of the worst designs I've ever seen for backpack kibble, and I don't understand how Stunticon Breakdown keeps ending up on the short end of the stick as far as new toys go. Just seems like any time, like between this and Combiner Wars, and there's probably a few other examples out there, he always seems to have the worst one. I don't know why he keeps ending up having the worst mold. He just does, and it's a shame. Yeah, I would be fine retiring this one. Yeah, it's just a sloppy mold altogether. Oh, here's one. I never expected them to get so much mileage out of a Skids mold. I really did not. But it's been all over the place. Now, there are other options. They could have done a reboost out of this by now. They have not. There's other things you could do with it, but I am very much in the retirement mood for this mold. I don't ever want to see this thing again. It's gotten so many uses. It's been done so many times, and apparently it's the rumor is that it's going to be the cannonball for the Starseeker line. I don't want to see it again. I'm so done with this mold. It's not even a great mold. It's okay. It is like it serves a purpose type mold. I'd be okay never seeing it again. I'm done with it. I'm done. Needle Nose, we're just now getting a retool of it, and I think this is actually a really nice and clever figure. I genuinely would not mind seeing more of it. I do think Hasbro needs to go through the effort of taking the Target Masters out, because it's making the retools feel less special. I'd rather the retools of this figure just have giant guns instead. That way, Windsweeper would have been better. Alternate versions of different characters this mold is capable of could be better. I think it just kind of diminishes it having the Target Masters in there. It makes Needle Nose, who is known for having those characters, a little less special. I'm not really a fan of that. So I'd say retool, because we still have, well, spoilers for something else in this list. We still need to get a G1 Skyquake, because this toy is compatible with the Legacy Skyquake mold. They do combine the same way that the Stalkers from Euro G1 could do. We still need some good representation of that. So retool. There's definitely there's legs in this mold yet. Dragon Megatron. That's what this one is. So here's the thing. From all the listings that we have seen, I don't think we have seen a Cryotech listed yet, which is the single most obvious one. That said, it's a nice mold that has some really cool crossover potential. I can't tell you how many people I've seen. Like, I mean, I've gotten into the Q&A. Like, would you get this if they like did a collaborative and made it like a Blue Eyes White Dragon or something? And my answer, yes, absolutely yes. Like, it's got the proportions for it. It'd be spot on. I'm looking at Blue Eyes right now. Yes, do it. Absolutely do it. Especially like if that means retooling the head, because that head is, we know the factory screwed up, because he wasn't supposed to look like he had piranha teeth, but he does. And so retool all around. I'm not done with this mold. No one should be done with this mold. It's a very solid mold. I would like it again, please. Cryotech or otherwise. DevCon's a weird one. DevCon's a really weird one. I'm going to say retool because it's such a generic form. I think you could do just about anything you wanted out of this tooling. It's very weird that a one-off character like DevCon would get a completely new toy. Really... Well, I guess not. If I remember right, it's not a completely new toy, is it? It feels like it because it's completely new engineering, but I believe the engineering is based on 86 Blur, which is, you know, we've seen that Blur a lot. Still, it makes for like a nice. It's one of those toys that like hits a level of generic in overall design. That like it hits this nice point of being a blank canvas. I mean, offhand, I can't think of anything to retool into this. I just know it's a nice figure that has the potential for it. I'm going to say retool because I think there's more you could do with it. I would just have to sit and think about what it would be. You know, there's got to be something out there. There's a bunch of retooling is needed, but it can be done. Okay, we talked about this one before. Like I said, it's going to be a little redundant. So, yeah, this is repaint category. This is repaint. I would love to see this one redone with the Waruder colors. We've had that explanation already. We can move on. Tarantulas is a surprisingly good figure that kind of died a death at retail. This guy should not have shelf warmed. He definitely shouldn't have been like cellophane packed in with another figure at Walmart as a Black Friday 2-for-1 special. It's a nice toy. It is a nice toy. That said, there are not many options for the poor guy. There's a part of me that would laugh if they did like a straight up repaint of him into Black Arachnia with the original robot head, gap in the face and all, just for the laughs of it. But beyond that, the original Tarantulas toy does not have a whole lot of usage to it, so there's not a whole lot of options you could go to here. Honestly, like, this is one of those where, like, the mold is good, but I would still say retire, because I think everything you could do that would be really good with the mold has already been done. You know, I think with Takara doing the upgraded version of this one, you're pretty much set. I think that's the ball game for Tarantulas. Despite being a good toy, I don't really know anything you could do with it that would make it interesting to buy again. Shadow Striker. We know this is already getting retooled into Sideburn. The toy itself is okay. It's doing that thing I hate, which is using a big chunk of the kibble for the shield. But at the very least, with the original basis for this toy, that kind of makes sense. So I'm not going to hold it against the toy for that. That said, once it's retooled, there are plenty of options. You could do the proper, OTFCC Shadow Striker. You could do Roulette as well. You could do you could do the Super Mode Sideburn. You could do Universe Sideburn. There's a ton of life left in this mold. Ton of life left even after they do the Sideburn figure. So absolutely repaint, retool. Repaint, retool, re-everything. This one's got plenty to go. They keep using this mold, and the more times they use it, the less I feel it fits. Because I think it made for a really interesting update to Alita 1. I think it made a decent Minerva, but I still would have liked to have seen something that kind of felt like, like the fact that she's supposed to be a repaint or retool of Nightbeat, which you don't get out of Minerva, who turns into Truck. I wasn't really feeling that, or even if you pass it off as like a heavy car, like it just didn't feel right from Minerva. I'd like to see the first responder car. I would like to see her in her traditional alt mode, and then you do it as Strong Arm here, and I'm thrilled Strong Arm got a new toy. It just didn't feel right for her. It just didn't feel right. The bulk I expect for that character just doesn't exist. The character here needs a new do, but the mold itself is due to retire, especially given how Hasbro has a really bad habit of just constantly beating a mold to death if it's a female character, so they can just get all the girls out there. No, retire this one. Time to retire it. I would make one exception, because I'd like to see Firestar, redone in as a proper figure, and she does traditionally turn into a truck. That would have made sense. But no, I don't really need that. I don't really need it. So, yeah, I'm done with this mold. I'm bored of this mold. Skyquake here. This mold still has options, because there is tooling there to make it look like G1 Skyquake, which we still have not gotten. And there is the possibility of a Machine War Starscream that I really like. So I'm going to say retool, which is weird because genuinely I don't like this figure. I think there's some messy things about this figure that really detract from it. I want retool specifically because I'm hoping they fix some things. I'd really like the backpack to fold up together more smoothly. Because people have figured out ways that it can fold up better, but it takes such precise and weird, part arrangement that I can never get it quite right. So I'd really like a smoother way of that back transforming. I don't think it's hard. I don't think it would be too hard if they just switch some engineering around a little bit. But yeah, you can see needle nose on top right there is why we need another version of this mold. So I'm gonna say remold, hoping that as well as becoming a new character, it becomes a little bit cleaner as well. Here's a fun one. Do we want to reuse a Titan? My answer is yes. I was not very interested in Nemesis, just because it's a nothing character for a ship that I had very limited exposure to. It doesn't really last very long on camera, is the thing. In G1, it really doesn't last for very long. But you know what? I want a retool. Because you know what would make me buy this? Beast Wars colors. The gray version that was done in the finale of Beast Wars, with a head that's designed after a Predacon logo instead of a Decepticon one. Retool is the answer for me here. I would buy that in a heartbeat. Core Megatron, we know will end up being Galvatron, but after that, you're getting a little bit limited. That said, I wouldn't mind a Shattered Glass Megatron out of this. New head, so Retool is my answer here. Honestly, it's just a fun little figure. Like, if they could figure out other ways of, like, cleverly retooling it into something else, I wouldn't mind getting this toy again. I really wouldn't mind. I think it's a fun little piece. Bludgeon, we know, is coming back out in well, we think we do. We think it's coming out again because it's in the listings for the Mayhem Attack Squad, but we haven't seen it yet, and we already know one of those listings had an incorrect name. So now we're not sure if Bludgeon's coming back or not. Something that was leaning more like comic book style Bludgeon instead of like, this is IDW style, you know, something that would lean more toward G1 comic book might be an improvement. Really don't know how. Really don't know how they're going to reuse it. That said, I wouldn't mind a retooling of this. I wouldn't mind a reuse of this one because I wouldn't mind a Bonsai-tron out of it. That's about it, though. I think there's other ways of using it. We have to save those. The Metal Hawk figure doesn't seem like it's got a whole lot more it can do. Now, Cyclonus is getting another repaint for the Starseeker line as Ferric, so we're going to see him again. But as far as the new molding for Metal Hawk goes, I don't think it comes through as nicely as Cyclonus does. So I would probably retire this particular version of the figure. And even Cyclonus does not have a whole lot more it can do, but that one is superior to this one. I hate to say it. Here's an easy one. I don't really know. You've done the Shattered Glass. You've done Twin Cast. It's a nice mold, but it's time to retire. I don't think you can do much else with this one. Yeah, and it's nice, but it's simple. You know, I can't imagine something that would be done with this mold that would make me go, yeah, I would potentially own it, you know, a potential fourth time. Yeah, I think I'm done with him. So that's a retire. No, not Crash Bar. I'm getting ahead of myself. Grease, Axle Grease. This one is a repaint, and only for one reason, because it bugs me that this came out. I know it's a retool of another Junkion. Okay, I'm giving that, but it bugs me that this figure was not done in actual Junkion colors. The Junkions are as close as any of the Izers have come to all having matching color and being far more buildable because of it. And then they did this, which is kind of neat. But man, I want those parts. I want those parts to actually match the others. I want it in the tan and the orange. So it's a repaint for me. It's a repaint for me, but it's a very specific one. Trash Master is one that, honestly, like, it's a brand new figure. I would be perfectly fine setting it to retire. I don't think it breaks apart enough to really play with the Junkion play pattern. I think it's nice that they tried a Voyager in it, but overall, I don't think it plays as well, and honestly, I'm not a fan of the mold. I'm really not a fan of the mold. A lot of it's pretty simple. It's kind of uninspired as a figure goes. I don't really find it that fun to mess with. And honestly, I think it's one of those figures where like the accessory method to this one, like it's trying for that Iser effect in a larger class, I think it's a detriment. I think it makes it feel like a figure like this, big and chunky, should feel more solid than it does. But it has to work within that gimmick, so it kind of doesn't. Yeah, I think this one missed the ball. I'd be okay retiring this one. Okay, now here's Crash Bar, and here's one where, yeah, I would actually like a retooling of it. This one's a little bit more fun. I think this one's my favorite out of all the Junkions they did for Evolution. Yeah, I could go for a few more versions of it. I could see a few characters in it that we could possibly get. It's not a bad figure. Okay, so Detrius, we know we're getting as Hound. Beyond that, with the Hound coming out, it's definitely time to retire this one. It's been around since Siege. You know, we've been getting iterations of this figure since Siege. It's been done as all the figures that you would expect. It's been crammed into characters that I didn't really think fit for it. I'm okay doing away with this one, and I think it's time for another Jeep Transformer to kind of take the reins for a little bit. I would take one repaint, and one repaint alone, and it's the canceled Smokescreen Universe figure, because for whatever reason, I still really like those colors on this design. That is literally all I would accept out of a redo of this toy. Beyond that, I think it's perfectly fine letting it go. So you got one more hot shot, and then yes, you need to go back into the garage and actually come up with a design that isn't, you know, horrible in one direction. I still hate your legs. Still hate your legs. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we got another Junkion whose name always escapes me in the moment when I actually need it, and it's incredibly frustrating to me every time. But it's an okay figure. I think, though, we've done just about everything we can for him. So this is one of those I would be okay just saying, like, you know what, Scraphook, that's the name. I'd be okay retiring Scraphook. I don't need to have that toy again. Here's an interesting one. It's a really cool figure. Now, obviously, we talked about Bludgeon, so I was very specific, being like, yeah, there's a potential repaint in Bludgeon. But going back to the base figure, yeah. Going back to the base figure that leans way more into its tank aesthetic than Bludgeon does, we need more toolings on this one. It's a great figure, and I'd take repaint too. I'd take like darker colors. I'd take more battle damage, like a higher end version looks more comic accurate. Yeah, give me more. Give me more. Give me more. Beachcomber. It's a very simple figure, but it makes for a nice little dune buggy. We know one remold we're getting out of it as Ruckus. I presume Ruckus is going to be using this mold. We have no confirmation of that yet, but it's the only one that makes sense. I think, again, it's a type of figure that makes for a great blank canvas. It's a very simple figure, but that does allow it some surprising versatility. I think we could absolutely get another usage out of this if we were clever about it. So yeah, I'm good for this one. I would be down for another. I would be down for another usage of this one as a heavy retool. And I believe that's gonna do it for us. That is an entire toy line, which took way longer because I took way too much time explaining things. But yeah, that's Retool, Repaint, Retire. If you like the format, let me know, because we can't do this one often unless we rework it. But I don't know. I thought it was fun to give it a shot. So there you go. That's my opinion about an entire toy line and if I want to see the toys again. So a little bit of new stuff today. So thank you very much for everyone. Thank you for all your support. And of course, I will see you next time.